right. Good morning, Chair Postman and Board Member Garrett and staff. The lobby is open and the recording has begun.
Thank you, Dustin. Good morning, everybody. We will convene the Liquor and Cannabis Board Caucus meeting for Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. Our first item is approval of the March 29th Board Caucus minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the March 29th Board Caucus minutes.
Great, I'll second, and those are approved. And just to note, that was the roundtable on retail cannabis safety, and the minutes will be posted later today if anybody wants to go back and reread any part of that. I looked at it this morning as I was going through the minutes to approve, and it's great conversations, so take a look. Our next item is board meeting prep and rules update, and we will turn it over to Kathy Hoffman, the Policy and Rules Manager. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Postman and Board Member Garrett. I'll go ahead and start with a brief rules update and then move into the Cr102 package that'll be presented at the board meeting tomorrow. So starting with our alcohol rules, with respect to the rule project concerning axe throwing, public hearing is scheduled for April 27th. We've received a handful of comments, I want to say 3 or 4 perhaps, in support of that proposal so far. Under that timeline, the Cr103 would still be presented to you on or about May 25th. So that project remains on schedule and good to go forward.
Quick question on that.
Sure.
The 3 comments, that's it in total so far?
I believe, Audrey, if I may, Audrey, how many total comments have we received so far? I want to say it's been about 3, but I might be mistaken.
Hi, Kathy. Yeah, I believe you're correct, and I can double check that. But I believe
okay, no, that's good. Thank you.
Just a handful of comments on that.
Okay, thanks.
Of course, and then the next project that we've just recently opened is to implement Senate Bill 5940. That has to do with a contract packaging services endorsement. We had our first project team kickoff meeting yesterday, kind of scoping the rule project and talking about how we might implement that legislation. So more to happen there, but at this point it looks like the Cr101 will be prepared to be presented to you on April 27th, excuse me, so the next board meeting. So we're moving along with that project nicely. Next project is just general rulemaking, and that has to do with the electronic service project. We do have draft conceptual rules that were shared with the public yesterday for comment. Because they're general in nature, and we don't see them as being very controversial at all, we're using the approach of just sharing the draft conceptual rules over our web delivery service and inviting people to comment on those rules to our rules inbox. And we've done that with a couple of other projects before that were relatively non-controversial. And these we do believe will benefit both our regulated community and others who engage with the agency, as well as the agency itself. So the comment period for that, I believe, ends on the 25th of this month, and then we can move towards a Cr102 that we anticipate will be filed on May 11th. All right, questions on those before we move into the cannabis rule projects?
No, just on the electronic service we've talked about before. I know it's not one of our more exciting things, and I think sending it out for written comments is totally appropriate. I would just encourage anybody interested to take a look, because I agree it will help the just smooth running kind of adjudication and other parts of what the LCB does every day, the kind of back shop operations, and so yeah. I appreciate the work the staff's put into that, and encourage people to take a look. Thanks.
All right, so moving into cannabis rules in progress. As you know, Jeff filed with your approval, the Cr102 for making the technical adjustments to 314.55.108. That has to do with pesticide action levels and aligning that particular rule section with the quality control rule updates that we just recently made. That is scheduled for hearing on May 11th as well. And under that timeline, the earliest we could bring the Cr103 for your approval would be May 25th. So I think there have been 1 or 2 comments received, mostly in the form of questions about what the rules might do. Jeff's not here to provide details on that, but very little feedback on that rule set at this point. And then Jeff is also working on implementing House Bill 1210, and that's the piece of legislation that changed the word marijuana to cannabis in statute. We're updating all of our rules to reflect that change. It's not just isolated to our cannabis rules, but there are other rules throughout the entire section 314 that need to be updated. So Jeff plans on bringing the Cr105, so that's a different rulemaking process. It's called expedited rulemaking. That because it's mandated that we engage in that process, we're doing it. So that means that there won't be a public hearing on the rule proposal, and that we move to a 103 after 45 days after the 105 and its content have been published on the Washington State Register. So it's a way for it. Yeah, it's a different.
I didn't know there was a 105. I was still, my first frustrations was 101, 102, and 103 before something could be done. And I didn't know we could jump to a 105 and on certain.
But then you go back to a 103 as I get it. Right.
Right,
So
but wait, there's more. Yeah, there's one more process. This is a process that was written into the legislation that moves, industrial hemp into what it is right now. So yeah. So it's available to us, and we're using it as mandated by 1210, House Bill 1210. So that should be on your agenda at the next board, or not the board meeting tomorrow, but the next board meeting.
Right.
If we run into any delays, we'll let you know on that. And then really, I guess this is kind of, we can talk about what I'll be presenting to you in the board meeting tomorrow. And that's the Cr102, asking for your approval to file it, to accept our proposal for draft, let me back up here, I apologize. Asking for your approval to file a Cr102 to put our rule proposal forward for social equity rules. And so these, and I'm sorry if it took me a while to get there. I really am excited to bring this rule package to you tomorrow for a number of reasons, notwithstanding that we do have a proposal that puts our social equity program into rule, and that aligns with the recommendations of the Social Equity Task Force. It also amends several licensing rules to align with the language that we're introducing in the social equity program, and then also make the rules, I think, easier for people to read, to understand, and to understand our licensing process. We did some reorganization in our licensing rules on the cannabis side so that they flow a little more smoothly, and some of the language aligns up, and we're shifting away from language that sounds, it's legalese, if we're being, clear, moving away from that kind of language so that folks who read the rules, folks to whom the rules apply, can understand what they say. So we're excited about this proposal. The other thing that I wanted to share was the Cr102 memo itself and the changes that reflects in the way that the agency thinks about rulemaking and policy development. You'll note in the 102 pack, or in the 102 memo, that we did a complete DEIB, so that's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging analysis. That's something to look forward to in all of our rule packages. Certainly been a lens that we do our policy development through, and it has been for the last year, over a year, I should say. The other thing that I've to bring your attention to, and I know I've done that with you individually, is the comparison table in the package that lays out the social equity program rule, how it aligns with the recommendation of the social equity task force, and in some instances actually mirrors the language that was offered to us, and how it aligns with that recommendation and the statutory authority to go along with it. So those really are the high points of the rule package. Let me check my notes to see if there's anything that I forgot. There isn't. So can I answer any questions on this?
No, I'm excited with you that we're moving forward and moving along with those rules. The listen and learn, you had a huge turnout. And I know that you did make some changes and within things based on recommendations. So great work.
Well, thank you. And, I'm glad you brought that up, Board Member Garrett. We did incorporate, pardon me, the scoring rubric in the rule. And we also made a couple of changes to some definitions that were suggested by participants in the listen and learn session. So we were grateful for the feedback we received. And I also want to say we were grateful for all the ways that feedback was received. We heard feedback in the form of narrative, story, sharing experiences, and that all is important to us. And we listened to it and we memorialized it in the rule package as well. So everyone was heard, and we were thankful that they felt comfortable sharing with us, and we continue to look forward to doing that good work. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add my thanks to you and your team, and also thanks to Member Garrett, whose leadership on the task force and within the agency just helped us hugely to get to this point. And, that comparison you were talking about was something that I was particularly pleased to see, because I think it really shows how aligned the LCB is with the task force. Now, not 100%, and we've talked about the rubric, and we could talk more about it tomorrow, but yeah, and we wouldn't be there if it weren't for Member Garrett's sort of parallel roles on the task force and on this board. And so I think we really benefited from her knowledge and commitment there. So
Absolutely. And if I may, one more thing, just also shout out to our licensing division and Becky Smith's leadership. Has really,
100%.
really helped this project along, and I've greatly appreciated it. Greatly appreciated everyone. But yeah, there's been some excellent work there.
And we'll talk a little more about that tomorrow, and we have mentioned in the past, but when you look at the turnaround that licensing led in our collaboration with the task force and the legislature, has really been one of the remarkable things that's happened in just this last year, and as Member Garrett reminds us, we brought that legislation to the legislature initially. And I think that the staff stepped up here in this year. Was that 2 years after the initial one, to really get it to this point? So, and we will have to acknowledge that even though I think we're all really pleased and excited about what's happening, we also know it's the beginning of a lot of work to be done. The vote tomorrow is not completion of that. It's opening the door for a lot more hard work and actually trying to find locations and all that. So, but I won't rain on that parade yet. We'll be thankful today.
Yes.
And conserve some energy for the future.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I'm drained.
Oh, I bet. Can't give up yet.
Anyway, that concludes my sharing for today.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow for the board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that takes us to our last item, which is board member and executive assistant reports. Anything more, Member Garrett?
No, I had a great conversation with our incoming board member, and looking forward. I'm just looking
Yeah.
forward to having him join us. Yeah.
Yeah, I chatted with him again too, Jim Vollendroff. Just he's studying so hard. He
Yeah,
it's really exciting. So
it is.
yeah, just couple weeks and he'll be with us.
Yeah.
So yeah, good. The only thing I'll note is tomorrow's board meeting, we got a lot on the agenda, including going to spend some time updating everybody on cannabis retail and other safety issues. There's been a lot going on since our roundtable on the 29th. And we will have division heads here at the LCB give you some detailed reports tomorrow as part of the board meeting. Later this morning, there's going to be a licensees only meeting with law enforcement to talk about best practices. Excited to see what comes out of that. There's work going on in all of the different pieces of this that we discussed on the 29th. Cashless systems, federal legislation, state legislation that could help retailers and others who are making investments, all sorts of things. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow for that update from everybody. And then as Kathy Hoffman was just pointing out, we are going to approve the Cr102 for social equity, which is a big deal, and look forward to that as well. So
we also, I forgot to mention, Becky and I did a presentation last week with Seattle City Council members and brought them up to speed on where we are with the social equity and, you know, how we got to where we are. We kind of gave them a full overview. They were having a discussion around that and trying to figure out if there's anything the city itself can be doing and working on. So they wanted to hear where we are and how we got to where we are. So we presented to them last week in one of their council meetings.
That's great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot you all have learned through this process that
and
can be
still
shared.
learning.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's a heavy lift.
But I think it's good when other municipalities are taking the time to bring us in and to know what it is we are doing, how we got to where we're doing, because they're all hearing things also. So it's good that they, I thought it was great that they did that.
Yeah, that's terrific. I kind of hope others do it as well. That'd be nice to see that kind of sharing going on. So terrific. Okay. Dustin, anything to report from your desk?
Nothing for the good of the order. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Okay, well, with that, then we will adjourn and we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for the board meeting, and that will adjourn the caucus meeting for April 12th, 2022. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.